what is your overall opinion of RISE with SAP service?
Well, I think overall it's good, right? So software vendors who have to support too many different versions of their software are getting spread thin, even at the scale of an SAP, right? So they have to figure out, why do their customers not move to the latest software? How can they sweeten their deal? How can they move forward with that, right? And that's basically attempt and push from that perspective. Yep.
Mhm.
So I think that that's a positive. The big billion-dollar question, of course, is, has SAP sweetened the deal enough for the adoption to happen in 2021, right? And the big concern for me is this is not the right time to speak to most companies about this. I categorize the companies in three segments in the COVID world, right? There's the super busy ones, the essential businesses. They're definitely not going to upgrade their ERP solution, right? So nothing of that's going to happen. Then there's the stutterers, the on-off, regionally different, and so on. They also don't have the appetite. They have to accelerate their processes. They might be able to do something like this. And then the worst part are the sidelined ones, like the airlines, which don't even know what their business model is, right? They don't even know how many if they're going to operate like this, right? They might need a smaller ERP solution for the future of the company, right? So I think even if SAP got the most attractive no-brainer offer, which I certainly don't have right now, they wouldn't see a lot of adoption, unfortunately, at least in the first half of 2021.
How confident are you that the whole effort is put together? Because there's a lot of moving parts of RISE.
Yep.
Have you heard whether they really have them in place, or they have a near-term timeline where they're going to have it all in place this year?
Well, it all starts in sales, right? And they're sorting out and figuring out who's going to lead this, right? And if it's going to be led by one person or whatever. So it's early. I think they wanted to get it in the books early to accommodate some customers. And there might have been some signings early anyway, which they can put under the RISE banner to show traction of that. So I think it's not only the overall economic situation with the pandemic going on, which is not very favorable for them. It's the overall situation, which I think will not help them to get too many things done early, I would say. But I'm happy to be wrong, because, like I said, it's a good thing to see if the SAP customer base is moving to the latest version, where there's a lot of innovation benefits for them. They get more value out of the SAP implementation.
Yeah. What do you think is SAP's main purpose of doing this? I know we can't read people's minds and maybe attribute motivation to them, but it seems like there's a number of reasons why they might be doing this. Do you have any theories or information on what their motivation is?
It's a theory. They want to S4HANA adoption, right? S4HANA cloud adoption, right? Not S4HANA premise adoption, right? The writing of that is totally clear, right? And there's nothing, as I said, there's nothing wrong with that, right? So if you build something, there's nothing more expensive for the software vendor to have multiple platforms and not have customers using the latest, greatest, right? And SAP is on this long haul, and we know that whole takes a long time, right? We used to speak at Open Worlds in person, remember? It took Oracle 10 years, right? And the fascinating thing to me is how SAP and Oracle are on these totally separate cycles on the product side, right? So Fusion was announced in 2004, S4HANA announced in 2014. Now, SAP might be all proud, I can make fun of Germans being German, right? That they have the better engineering, they're more efficient and so on. So maybe it takes SAP 8 years, that will be 2022 to a functional equivalency and parity, right? And that is what's really holding customers back, that they want to make sure that everything they could be running in their ECC R3 instance is running in S4HANA. Now, SAP is a very good point in saying you don't want to run all this because it's old best practices, that's old capabilities, you don't need this, you don't want this. But that's where everybody's saying, yeah, but I want to be in charge of that, right? Of course I take something better, but if I need what I'm running right now, please make that sure that that is running there as well.
How would you say RISE differs, though, from the past offerings? Like, what's new and different about this from what they've done in years past, trying to get people to go to S4HANA Cloud or just S4HANA?
Yeah, so what is in common is it has a snazzy name, right? All upgrade programs have snazzy names. I think it's conceptually the business transformation as service, which has to be filled with live. And then the other key thing, which makes customers, of course, understand and do things, that SAP is allowing them to convert, and they still have to share the details, some of their maintenance dollars into subscription revenue, right? And customers, SAP is kind of like solving a problem there. Customers are saying, why am I paying all this maintenance? What am I getting for that? I only get something new which I don't want to go there yet. Where's the value for me in this? But that's a dirty secret of all of enterprise software, that maintenance is super profitable and fuels the new innovation. That's the idea of the contract by itself. But those are the two components which SAP has to get right. And that's what customers get or see. All the partner things are like the enablers for that, right? I mean, it's good to see the partners on board. I am disappointed to a certain point by all the system integrators of not having the ROI calculators and the methodology and the reasons where to go, right? So it's a very interesting thing that partners, for whatever reason, are sitting this out. But again, the pandemic, right? The partners have to figure out a new way of implementing things, right? The typical conference room glass bowl implementation, right? Booked for a year, and I can pull in everybody easily, and you can walk and see how things are really done if it's at headquarters and everything is centrally done and so on. That's not going to work anymore, right?
The other day, I watched the webcast of Oracle's CFO Live. I don't know if you saw that. Did you watch that? And Larry Ellison was live from Lanai, and he repeated a claim. Larry Ellison, of course, the CTO and founder of Oracle, he repeated something I've heard him say many times before at Open World and at earnings calls. This is pretty much a direct quote. He said, SAP doesn't really have a cloud ERP system. They really have not rewritten their ERP system for the cloud. Is that even fair for him to say?
Yeah, well, the SAP has not rewritten from line one like Oracle has a Fusion, right? From that perspective, from his vantage point, that's a fair enough point, right? SAP has moved code assets which they think are relevant, necessary over, which are still in ABAP. And ABAP itself is not the language of the cloud, right? It doesn't have that scalability. They're very compatible both in the way how they solve tenancy, right? So every customer is in their own tenant database, may it be HANA or an Oracle version, which is, by the way, the right architecture, right? The old multi-tenancy conversation that Salesforce and other first-generation cloud vendors was the right solution 20 years ago is not the right solution today, because you can't move and port the database, you can't use standard BI tools to look at it and so on. So interestingly, behind the scenes, they're they agree on that from that perspective. But Larry is to a large point right. There's been simplifications, but it's fundamentally the same code which is running there. And now you can, of course, debate what is cloud, right? So, and if you ask me, cloud is elasticity. Can you ramp up and ramp down in terms of the consumption and the footprint of the solution? This is where every ERP solution is struggling a little bit, let's say it like this.
You know, a lot of analysts, Wall Street and industry folks have pointed out that much of SAP's cloud revenue really comes from the cloud properties it acquired, like Concur and Ariba, Glass. And there's also been complaints, and I think Christian Klein, the CEO, has said this at different statements, that some customers have complained that these cloud properties aren't as well integrated with each other as they would like them to be, or with the SAP products like ERP. And so Christian Klein has said in one of his first statements as sole CEO, he said that was going to be one of his priorities, to really work on that integration.
Correct. And this was just, sorry to jump in, David. This was his agenda for 2020, right? Listening to customers. There was a planned roadmap for the year. We have to check and hold SAP's feet to the fire. I think most of the things have been developed and shipped, but it's not over. And that was acknowledged a year ago, and kind of like RISE has taken over, kind of like from that perspective. I'm still waiting for the integration plans for 2021.
Well, Holger, this has been helpful as always. And I guess I'll use this as a real sign off for the to say goodbye. Unless you have anything else you want to say.
No, I think the net positive is that SAP is trying to do something, is working on making that package more interesting. I think customers should look at it and give them feedback if it's interesting enough. The uphill battle is to get any packaging right, and the uphill battle is, of course, the pandemic, right? So companies have other things on their mind than upgrading the ERP right now, which is a huge ask for anybody.